Hey, Robbie, it's showtime. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Now, a few things here, just housekeeping items, if you will. It is tax day, April 15th, the worst day of the year, the day that we are all forced to proclaim to the government our compliance with the tax code, and in some cases, write a check to the government. When you're a business owner, self-employed, that typically is the case. So today, April 15th, a painful day for those of us who have been successful in life. It stinks particularly when, Robbie, you realize that the money we send to Washington is spent on some of the dumbest stuff on the planet. It just is. So, it doesn't help you feel encouraged about making those payments. But regardless, here we go. April 15th, tax day, reminds me of the letter, let's see, the Rumsfeld letter. If you guys know what this is. Don Rumsfeld, that Rumsfeld, correct, back in April 15th, 2014, put out a letter. He wrote a letter to the IRS, and he said basically in it that he just did his returns for 2013, and although he is a sophisticated college graduate, he has no idea if what he put in his returns is accurate because, and I quote, "The tax code is so complex and the forms are so complicated that I know that I cannot have any confidence that I know what is being requested, and therefore I cannot and do not know, and I suspect a great many Americans cannot know whether or not their tax returns are, in fact, accurate." Yeah, and by the way, he alludes to this later in the letter, and I think it's funny because I love my wife. Every year she signs her tax return. If there were ever a problem, first off, I turn everything over to my accountant. I have very complicated taxes, as you might imagine, multiple businesses, different streams of income, right? So complicated. I have no real idea exactly if everything is correct, but I've got a great tax guy and I trust him and I've used him for many years. So, presume that it is correct. You know who really doesn't know? You know who really doesn't have a clue? My wife. When she signs that tax return, it's like under penalty of sudden death by the government. And, she has no idea. And I don't want to make it it's not a sexist thing. My dad has no idea I'm sure he's signed tax return. Of course he has. Because my mom does. She's still, even though she's got an accountant, she insists on going through everything item by item herself. So she has an idea what's in the tax. My dad had no clue, has zero clue, positive of it. So there's always that one spouse that probably doesn't even read the form. So the whole thing is, it's such a joke. And it's a joke in particular when you realize that for years and years, Hunter Biden got by without paying any taxes, with blatantly taking in millions upon millions of dollars in bribe money, funneling in it for his family on behalf of his dad, never paid a dime of taxes on it, and later was able to skate. It really doesn't make you feel good on tax day. So anyway, if you haven't filed, get an extension or file today, or else. Okay. I have to, Robbie, I got so much to cover. Can I just talk about these Chinese people for a minute? Robbie's eyes are getting as big as saucers. The Chi-Coms, the commie pinko Chinese apparatchiks with their stupid little videos that they're posting. I just saw another one. Let me pull it up here. This guy, he's being described as a top Chinese official. And this comments were made at a board of director meeting for China's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office. So this guy's name is Xia Baolong. And Xia Baolong just did something that pissed me off. He called Americans peasants. Peasants. You know, where do I begin on this? I'm not a, I'm a patriot. I'm not a nationalist. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I'm able to see its faults. I'm able to sort of separate, my some of my personal beliefs about things with what I think is the greatest good. All this stuff, right? I love this country, and but I have to get a little defensive here, if you'll permit me. If it were not for the United States, China would still be using rickshaws to get around. And I mean this, look, their industrialization, thanks to Nixon, okay, opening up China to the world in an effort to block in the USSR, right? This is all, part of a grand, strategy there in the 70s. It produced an opportunity that China, granted, they seized. But this is a country, I know people that visit China regularly. This is a country that has some still truly disgusting habits, that has no law, really, okay, except for what benefits the dictatorial state that the communists have. They have, right, no copyright law. They have no protections for individuals. They have no civil liberties. It is a very unevolved society. When this communist apparatchik from China calls us peasants, we were creating democracy and individual liberty at a time when China was still in the firm grip of an emperor. I'm going to tell you, I'm still, thanks to Trump, very, very bullish on America. The Chinese answer is not the answer to everything, right? They've got this rapid industrialization. And in the context, this matters because there's this trade war that is in place. And there's been a development in the last 24 hours, which is that Carolyn Leavitt got up at the White House and said, hey, we're close to getting a deal. We've got a deal. We've got a bunch of countries. Trump wants to go through these. The president personally wants to go through them one by one and create, and figure out the details of it and approve them personally. But what I suspect is happening is behind the scenes, they're trying to line up enough countries of meaning and sign either a series of agreements or one big agreement that starts to create a block of isolation of China. And I read these sort of ridiculous Americans are peasants comments as very well as an indication that China's beginning to sweat. I think they're actually definitively worried about what comes next, because a trading bloc between key countries in Europe, South America, other countries in Asia, and the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, let's say, and throw in it could be 20 countries, and it functionally could account for 60%, 65% of the trade around the world. And I think that would be the death knell for China, particularly if whatever deal is struck with the U.S. is exclusionary in some way, shape, or form of Chinese markets. They have, and I'll reiterate this, far more to lose than us. So, in the immortal words of Shakespeare, who's the real peasant? Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. More on this and other top stories. You saw somebody got frog marched from the Pentagon. They found a leaker. This is exactly the right approach. I love that Trump 2.0, this administration is not dicking around. All right, the What's Right Show back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. And at What's Right Sam on Twitter, now known as X, find me there, send me questions. Of course, we're live, so I can respond to that here during this hour of the program. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
You know, folks, I gotta be honest, the entire situation with China now that it is emboldened, calling us peasants, could have been avoided if we just were right now enjoying the third term of Donald J. Trump. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. That's a joke, by the way. I'm just trying to provoke you all. Calm down. That's right. Welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. Trump successfully, in his first term, peeled Russia away from China, boxed China in, okay? Had China begging for a deal. And what did the Democrats do? They used it, they manufactured the Russia collusion hoax and fought Trump's patriotic maneuvers that were good, manifestly good for the country, fought them tooth and nail with, these absurd, completely made up, accusations. And then what? For one, we didn't have the Ukraine disaster in Trump's first term. We allying ourselves, not even talking to Putin, engaging him, and at the same time threatening him. Remember, Trump is the president and said, Vladimir, you cross that line into Donbass, I swear to God, I'm going to bomb the hell out of Moscow. And because everyone, everywhere, all the time, 24/7, leaked out of Trump's first administration, that call, the gist of it got to the media, who promptly decried that Trump was basically some sort of end of days, yes, doombringer, that he was going to be basically, sleepwalking the country into World War III and all these criticisms of it. But in fact, it was brilliant because Putin didn't know if Trump was being serious, had to decide, there's a chance Trump would actually do it. I don't know. The guy seems kind of crazy to me. And so he decided to not do anything. And then you know how the rest went. China unboxed, allied with Biden because, of course, Biden had various debts owed to prominent Chinese communists. This is well established through the Rosemont-Seneca Partners dealings that Biden's brother and James and, of course, Hunter Biden were developing ties with, were getting paid real money by communist-run companies. And so God, the level of compromise that the last administration had, I mean, maybe not collusion, but far more impropriety between China and the Biden administration than there ever was between Russia and of course, Trump. Now, speaking of the leaking that occurred in Trump's first term, I think it's one of the things that Trump in his, I'm calling it the interregnum period, the in-between reigns. Since the left calls Trump a king, we might as well embrace it. I know he did in a mocking way, which of course the leftist media immediately perceived was Trump admitting to being a monarch. I mean, I can't help it. He's such a troll. He's so freaking funny. So I'm going to embrace it too. Okay, so he's the interregnum period in between the first and second reigns of King Donaldus Maximus. Trump has been sitting there, Mar-a-Lago, before and after the raid, thinking one of my biggest regrets in my first term is the leaking. all the leaking. It was a sieve. I mean, just everybody in that administration just leaked nonstop. It was a thing. It's 100% a thing. Huge. And, here's the story, right? So apparently somebody in Pete Hegseth's team, a guy named Dan Caldwell, was just escorted from the Pentagon moments ago. He was identified as part of an investigation into leaks coming out from the Department of Defense. And Reuters is confirming, in fact, now I see this, that there's unauthorized disclosure of classified information, and the investigation is ongoing. The only way to deal with these people is to frog march them out of the building and then have Pam Bondi do the investigation. And if there's a confirmation that they did this, arrest them and try them and lock them up. Every single person who is leaking classified information is done. It's over. Because somebody that leaks classified information is somebody who's going to also leak things against Trump, these are the people that are dying for the affection of the media. They love the attention of it. This is not who Trump needs. These are people who need to be weeded out and taken care of. So I'm glad to see that is happening. Now, there hasn't been an official announcement. I don't anticipate, by the way, an official announcement on any of this. And by the way, so the only official announcement I can confirm is that Leavitt has said, and I mentioned this just before the break, spokesperson for the Trump administration, Caroline Leavitt, claiming that a trade deal is in the works. And I bring this up again in the context of the Chi-Coms insulting Americans. I mean, this is from a country that is very primitive once you get outside of the glitz and glamour of Shanghai, for example. So anyway, Caroline Leavitt claiming there's a trade deal. It's not with China. This is why the Chinese communists are getting agitated. This is what Caroline Leavitt said today from the White House.
And Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Treasury, all the great individuals who are working incredibly hard to cut these good trade deals. And the president's deeply involved in this as well. He has made it clear to his trade team he wants to personally sign off on all of these deals too. And so I don't want to get ahead of them on announcements, but obviously, as you've heard from numerous administration officials, there have been many talks with countries. We've had more than 15 deals, pieces of paper put on the table, proposals that are actively being considered. And as we've said consistently, more than 75 countries have reached out. So there's a lot of work to do. We very much understand that, but we do believe that we can announce some deals very soon.
Yeah, this is, to me, by the way, Howard Lutnick's been a little bit of the Commerce Secretary, a little bit of a loose cannon. I know Steve Bannon yesterday came out with saying that Lutnick is basically a buffoon. And Steve Bannon, I'm not here. I'm really at this point. I'm not taking pot shots at people, and I'm trusting Trump's process. And if Trump keeps him, he's there. But my point is, Lutnick. If Lutnick says something, he has sort of been all over the map. So I'm not going to hang on every word that he says. But Leavitt is very measured, reporting directly to the president, and this is coming from the core Trump team. So whatever she's saying, I can tell you right now, has been signed off by Trump, and whatever advisors he holds close on this, on this deal. This is very encouraging, is my point. Very encouraging. And we looked at the markets, Robbie. I imagine today that they would react to this, but it seems that the objective of the administration is to box in China once again in a far more meaningful way than in 2017, 2018, and to create a trade alliance with key strategic partners around the world, and to sign that deal somehow, if it's not one big global deal, do a deal piecemeal, though, that still acknowledges the other concurrent deals to form some sort of a trade alliance. That's what I see as occurring. And that's why the Chinese are very angry. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to this Tuesday's show, April 15th, Tax Day. We hate this day, but we do it because we, as patriotic Americans, follow the law, unlike certain people with the last name Biden, first name Hunter. You know the story. You know the drill. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Email me there. I didn't check them here over the break. I'm going to get to it in a moment. Oh, wait, I've got one here. Tyler asking me, Sam, are transcripts available of your show? Not per se, Tyler. We have the shows all uploaded on, for example, Spotify. You can get them there for free. Apple Podcasts, the same way. On Spotify, the show, you'll find it What's Right Show. You'll see my picture there, a little bit of red, white, and blue. And on Spotify, you got video. So, but here, Tyler, thank you. You liked the show when I was in Europe. That was last week. I'm one of these crazy people. I will take my equipment with me when I travel. And it comes by. Fun fact, I used to have, Robbie, you remember the original case that you helped me kind of put together back in the day when we had just an audio program, and I could carry that. I could carry that as a carry-on. But my new case, and Tyler, since you appreciated my show on the go, I'll tell you, my new case is like this giant suitcase. The Pelican case, very high, very durable, kind of, basically could go through, the end of the world. But I got all the stuff in it, the cameras, the lights, and I get into my place in Prague or a hotel if I'm somewhere, and I have to set everything up. And but the point is, I try to do the show even when I'm away on a trip. And so, Tyler, go back to those episodes. It'll be, Monday, Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday are the ones you're looking for. Last week on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, your best bets. Okie dokie. At What's Right Sam on Twitter, on X, Sam at what'srightshow.com. Those are the Twitter handle and the X handle, and of course my email. So Democrats have a hero problem. Don't you think, Robbie? Isn't that the issue here? They have the strangest, heroes, martyrs, whatever you want to call it. I mean, martyrs don't have to be dead to be a martyr. But my point, they've got these. They first Luigi Mangione. We talked about this yesterday, and I'm gonna set that aside for a moment because I want to talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who has become a cause célèbre for the Democrats. Right, Garcia is the guy who had, who got picked up in Maryland. He was basically the ICE agent showed up with a giant butterfly net and captured this delicate man, this poor, sensible father, living in Maryland. Was totally nice guy, and he was an innocent guy, and got picked up and got sent to Texas and on to the Supermax prison in El Salvador. Now, I can't tell you how many people, how many Democrats, how many people in the media continue to mischaracterize the decision by the Supreme Court, by the SCOTUS. That's a short, by the way, for the Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS. So they put out his particular case, if you'll remember, went to the district court judge and was got to send him back, and the Supreme Court stepped in it. And I'm not going to read the decision to you here. I don't want to put you to sleep, but if you even go back to 2 days ago, Adam Liptak, writing for the New York Times, I repeat, writing for the New York Times, quote, second frickin' paragraph. In an unsigned order, the court stopped short of ordering the return of the migrant, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. What should I read on? Let me finish the sentence. Indicating that courts may not have the power required to get the executive branch to do so. Paraphrasing her. So, every time you hear CBS News or any associated press people, CNN, whoever, talking about even the Supreme Court has ordered that they return this guy. Just know that if you click past the headline, even in the New York Times, they acknowledge that that is not what the order says. Now, they did write in it that the government should, do what they can to facilitate a return of this guy. But here's the problem. He is an illegal immigrant in the United States of America, and he's an El Salvadorian citizen. Can we rewind here for a moment? Imagine this. You are illegally living in Japan. You're American citizen. You flew to Japan on a tourist visa and you overstayed. And by the way, Americans do this. It happens. Go to foreign countries. They're like, wow, we love it here. Maybe they just won't notice that I'm staying. And eventually they get caught and they get into a lot of trouble. So you get caught and the Japanese, what do? They send you back to the United States of America because that's where you're a citizen. And by the way, maybe they figure out that you're up to some, bad stuff in Japan. So they send you back, and the Americans, your country, goes, oh yeah, that is a bad person. We're putting him straight into prison. Now imagine there's some judge in Japan that says, oh no, I want you to return this sovereign citizen of the United States of America, this person, back to Japan, where he's not a citizen, and ordering the country in which he holds citizenship that he now finds himself in, ordering that country to return him. It's manifestly absurd, folks. Only in crazy land would something like that happen. And I know the reason that the court put in that language, but Trump should facilitate it to the extent that he can, is because, yes, the Supreme Court wishes they could order this guy returned. They hate Trump, with an exception of a few justices. Hate him. Amy Coney Barrett, so-called conservative, despises Trump. Don't even get me started on Chief Justice John Roberts. But regardless, they know that if they ordered him to do something like that is so outside of Trump's power, and it's in the realm of impossibility, that it would end whatever credibility they have left. Completely eradicated. So the Democrats have rallied around this guy. Absolutely rallied around him. That's wild stuff. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat Maryland, on Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his deportation. This was yesterday. Held a press conference. Oh, this is a U.S. senator. Was worried about this gangbanger that has a criminal record and was here in the country illegally. Got sent back. And this is what he has to say about it.
It is absolutely unjust and illegal to have this Marylander detained one more day in a notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, President Trump could have just said, bring him home. Of course he could have done that. But this is an administration that has lied about Mr. Abrego Garcia, right? The vice president of the United States tweeted out that he had a criminal record. That was a lie. They're just lying. They've gotten caught lying. They don't want to admit it. And they have an obligation to bring him home. But I will say the president of El Salvador should not now take it upon himself to say that he is detaining him for one more day, because that is kidnapping. I understand that the Attorney General said that we would provide a plane to bring him home. So all the president of El Salvador has to do now is hand over and release an innocent man and let him come home to his family.
Okay. So he has been kidnapped and being held by his own country, and a senator from a different country wants this man's own country to end the kidnapping. Do I understand that right? Two courts ruled that he was a member of MS-13. Okay? So I'm saying he's been convicted of a crime. I mean, convicted. The point is, they found that he had these gang affiliations. If you're here illegally, and on top of it, there's a whiff of you being affiliated with MS-13 or any other violent transnational gang, which, by the way, Kamala Harris was busy prosecuting in her time as Attorney General of California, constantly reminded of that on the campaign trail. Suddenly, the left has forgotten completely about prosecuting transnational gangs and are celebrating members of these gangs, rallying around them and turning them into some sort of modern-day democratic deities. I find this perplexing. I think you might as well. Now, by the way, he was found to be in this country illegally. We're mincing this super fine. If you're found to be in this country illegally, then you have broken the law, right? Okay, I don't know if he was actually technically, criminally convicted of entering the country illegally, but he had a deportation order, which then, by the way, got stayed because this is what the Democrats love to do. When they're in power, they love to wave their little magic, legalization wand, amnesty, backdoor amnesty. And Biden notoriously did this during his term, right? He just whole cloth amnestied bunches of people and gave them the temporary protected status. And then when Trump is trying to deport these people, there's no due process. Well, the Biden administration went around, conventional and set legal practices of how to legalize these particular illegals, and decided to just kind of do it through executive fiat. And so, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They are really backing this guy, lock, stock, and barrel. Adam Schiff released a video on X where Pencil Neck here looks like he's actually being held hostage himself. Perhaps a one-way trip to the Supermax prison is in order for him as well. Here's what Adam had to say.
Let me give you a quick reminder of what this case is about. So the administration grabs this guy off the street, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is from El Salvador originally. He came to this country illegally, but a court found that if he were returned, he might be the victim of gang violence. So there was a temporary order not to deport him. In violation of that order, they deported him anyway. The Trump administration has said this was a mistake. They called it a clerical error, as if they were ordering too many staples.
Yep. There was no order to deport him, only to not deport him to El Salvador unless, this is what the ruling said, unless the circumstances of threats changed. The gang that threatened him was Barrio 18 because it was a rival gang, because this guy's in a gang. Robbie, help me out here. My blood pressure yesterday was very high. I gotta be. And the Barrio 18 gang has been dismantled. Yeah, they filed Chapter 13. I don't know what gangs do when they go out of business. Do they have a garage sale? Yeah, I don't know. Do they? Maybe they still sell their wares to Zelensky. I don't know. The point is, there's so much lying about this. Now I have to take a break here. They're getting angry at me. More Adam Shifty Schiff up next about this. My point is, do you realize politically what deep levels of dog doo-doo the Democratic Party is getting themselves stuck in by making their entire political case? The thing that they're harping on right now is to do everything in their power to bring back into the United States, into our communities, deported gang members. Let that sink in. That is the state of the Democratic Party. Those are the cause célèbres, the heroes, the people that the Democratic Party is working. Are they working for you, your jobs, for American workers, for repatriating manufacturing to the U.S., making communities safe. No, the Democratic Party today, right here, right now, is working for what? To bring back gangbangers into your neighborhood, into your parks, to put in your kids, your wives, your loved ones into harm's way. That, my friends, is the Democratic Party of 2025. Giddy up, let's go. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Still baffles me, honestly, Robbie, that someone like Adam Schiff could end up in the Senate. The Senate! It blows my mind. This guy, what an incompetent boob. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. Yes, talking about the curious case of Mr. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. That's a mouthful. He almost sounds like somebody important. You know, he got these bunch of names, you know, like Tolkien, John Robert Ruel Tolkien. You know, like from the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Did you know that's his full name? John Robert, I think it was pronounced Ruel Tolkien or Rule. People do it two different ways. But regardless, that was an important man. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia is a gangbanger that was living illegally in America and now has become a darling of the political left. Because the political left doesn't give a rip about you, they just want to bring illegals here to wreak havoc in communities so that all of us are worse off and eventually end up pleading on our knees and begging for more government, putting us in a position where we're so afraid that we then, again, beg to relinquish our rights. These are people that want, by the way, it's important, you got to understand the why. For example, the reason that Obama ran the Fast and Furious little program selling guns to, some bad people. And these guys had no problem with MS-13 running around the country, Team Biden facilitating it, like literally making it happen. Don't you think that they want to turn around and at some point say, see, we need gun control. It's getting bad. The cynic in me knows this is true. And it used to be that I would push that cynic down. But the last 4 years, folks, a lot of my cynicism has proven to be true. And so I'm definitely far more wary of these people. So anyway, Schiff says there's a constitutional crisis because this gangbanger was deported and sent to a prison in El Salvador. Listen.
So why is this a constitutional crisis? It is a constitutional crisis because the administration is under a court order to return this wrongfully deported man to the United States to facilitate his return. And far from taking any step to facilitate his return, in that meeting in the White House, Donald Trump essentially told the Supreme Court to pound sand. Mm-hmm. Because far from what he says is what he doesn't say. And that is nowhere in that entire meeting does the President of the United States ask the President of El Salvador to return the man wrongly sent to a maximum security prison in his country. It just never happens.
I read to you the line from the New York Times where they say that's not what's in the order. Adam Schiff probably can't read, or he hasn't taken the time to read, or has read it. Again, here's me being cynical, has read it and chooses to lie. Imagine that. CNN today, Chief Legal Analyst Paula Reed actually agrees with the Trump administration on the SCOTUS ruling. I think this is a direct rebuke to Adam Shifty Schiff, pencil neck. Listen to what was said. This is CNN.
And President Trump and President Bukele made it clear that Abrego Garcia will not be returned to the United States, despite this U.S. Supreme Court ruling saying that Trump had to facilitate his return. So are they just ignoring a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, or is the fact that the ruling was so mushy, in your words,
yes,
giving him an opening?
It's a technical term I learned in law school, Jake. Mushy, look, they're working within the ambiguity that the Supreme Court justices gave them. They did not order the administration to return him to the United States. They said that they need to facilitate this return. They could have said, we order him returned, but they didn't do that. So you heard the Attorney General. She was being very careful in the Oval Office. When she was asked, would you help? She says, of course we'd provide a plane, right? Thereby facilitating whatever El Salvador is doing. The Supreme Court appeared to defer to the executive branch, given that this is an international matter. And you see, yes, it does look a little bit like a semantic game, but they are playing within the bounds of what the Supreme Court ruled. So no, they are not defying this order.
There it is. They're not defying the order. CNN. This whole thing is so phony. But let's talk about more of these Democrat heroes, shall we? Sam Mirejovsky, be right back after this. Friends, welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. We're based here in beautiful downtown Las Vegas. Yes, gorgeous day this April 15th, tax day. Yesterday, and I would be remiss if I did not mention this, Elaine Wynn passed away. We found out today. Elaine Wynn, of course, ex-wife of Steve Wynn, and together they co-founded Mirage Resorts and, of course, the Wynn Resorts and Encore Towers right here in Las Vegas. And so this is, of course, it was an older lady, right? She's well into her 80s. Apparently a brief illness took her out, but somebody who has contributed tremendously to Las Vegas and actually to Southern California. She served on the board of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, LACMA, and planning the Las Vegas Museum of Art. So a big art collector. And sad news today that Elaine Wynn has passed. All right, I have to say I'm looking. Just the news today is just wild. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but the attack early Sunday morning on Governor Josh Shapiro's residence. We talked about this yesterday, and I immediately spoke up about it. And I did an appearance after the program. I was on with Riley Lewis on OAN, and we talked about this as well, about political violence, and just every conservative I've talked to and every media appearance in the last several weeks that I have done outside of this program has focused on this topic in some way, shape, or form. And every conservative I've spoken to has decried political violence, has been firmly opposed to any political violence, no matter who the target is. And I want to point out that there is I've noticed something, just an observation, casual media observation. This attack on Shapiro's official residence, by the way, it's described as an arson attack. I think a lot of people who haven't looked at the pictures don't realize how truly dangerous the situation was. And it's right that the perpetrator is being charged with attempted murder, because this very well could have killed the governor or members of his family or others that were in the house at the time. This was not insignificant. This was extremely dangerous. And it really did a tremendous amount of damage, and I'm sure the governor and his family are traumatized by this. Now, why do I say all that? Well, given that this event was so big, it's kind of died in the news. It just happened the day before last. Early hours of Sunday. Today's Tuesday. 2 days later, not even. And people are sort of not talking about it. And if they do, it's, in particular in the mainstream media, it's there's this emphasis, right, on conservatives doing violent things. That it's the fault of Trump. Now, I think, my theory on this, really, it's been very quiet. My theory on this is that it blew up on Sunday, and it was everywhere on Sunday. Everybody, every outlet was talking about it. And then they discovered that this guy was a left-wing loon. I mean, that's part of the story, right? Cody Balmer saw somewhere a report that he had attended up to 39 different Kamala Harris rallies. It was like one of these paid groupies that went around and cheered on Kamala. But he's a lifelong Democrat, not a Trump fan, okay? And his motives for this appear to be that his house was sold at auction by the state of Pennsylvania. And, you know, he was angry at the governor and did this, you know, crazy thing. His mom says he's off his meds. So I'm not excusing him. And yesterday I mentioned his bipolar, you know, supposed bipolar condition. And I don't know that this was an act of targeted political violence is my point. There just doesn't appear to be a political motive. It certainly appears to have targeted a public official on the basis of some sort of perceived wrong that was specific to this individual that he suffered. And that's the information that we have, that I have, at least as of today. It may change in time. But I think precisely because it didn't fit a narrative, it got pumped up at first because a lot of Democrats in the media were like, oh, we finally have some violence to talk about coming from Republicans. See, we're going to find a Republican here who's, you know, some Trump person that is targeting a Jewish American Democrat governor who has aspirations, is talked about frequently as having possibly becoming someday a Democratic candidate for president in his own right. He was discussed as a possibility for vice president, running mates with Kamala Harris. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a background because I'm seeing some absolutely insane things, and I just want to get into it because I played the Taylor Lawrence clip yesterday. I might do that again and a little bit more of it this time. Taylor Lawrence, of course, is a journalist, and she was out there celebrating Luigi Mangione, who is one of the darlings of the left right now. You can't claim otherwise. Luigi Mangione has, of course, been arrested and being charged with the murder of the CEO of United Health. We don't know that he did it. There's an allegation, right? He's charged. He's in jail, awaiting trial. But we saw on video the execution. That's what it was. It was a street execution. A guy walks up behind, I think his name was Brian Thompson, a guy who's a CEO of a healthcare insurance company. Now, you know me, I'm a personal injury attorney, and I've seen some absolutely horrific things done by insurers. Absolutely horrific. Heartless, terrible stuff. I'm the last person here to defend the insurance industry. I think most of them are complete scoundrels. But this is not how we solve problems in America. We are a nation of laws. If an insurance company does wrong, you hire a lawyer, you hire Sam and Ash, and we get justice for you. You don't go sneak up on them, in a back alley somewhere and pop them in the head. We can't devolve into a country like that. And that the left is celebrating this politically as some sort of a win, to me, makes me ill. Now it'll make you sick too. And that's where we're at right now. The left, on one hand, wants to pretend, in a paradigm reminiscent of somewhere 10 years ago, that the greatest threat to America is white nationalism. When in fact, the political left has been hijacked by radicals who are advocating openly for an assassination culture. I mean, that's really what it is. Who themselves are diabolically anti-Semitic. All right, part of the thing now is being pro-Palestine. Of course, Israel is a bunch of baby killers. It's the power dynamic, Sam. You've got to understand Israel. Israel's the country that has the bombs and the missiles. And the poor little Palestinians with their handheld rockets. They're the little guy. We're for the little guy. Screw the man. When the little guy goes in and rapes and kills and burns people alive, good for the little guy. When the little guy walks up in the, wee hours of the morning on the streets of New York and like a coward, like a little, I'm not going to say the word, shoots a man in the back. As long as that person is a greedy CEO, a greedy capitalist, good for Luigi. Now, again, I'm not talking about the killer, right? I don't want to comment on the legal case. That's a separate issue. I'm commenting on the reaction from the left. Because I am seeing, in the last 24 hours, there are people like, well, we got Don Lemon. We got to take a break. But he has to be the dumbest person on TV. He's not even on TV anymore. My God, this guy is so stupid. I don't think he could chew gum and fart at the same time. But the clip, I think, represents the sentiments, popular sentiments of a number of Democrats out there right now, and it certainly is worth it is worth playing. So let's get to that here in just a moment. I want to tie all this together for you folks. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think it spells doom and destruction for the Democratic Party. It's not good for them. It's not a winning political argument. Oh yeah, we want gangbangers next door to you. We want CEO killers running amok. We want street justice. Welcome to the Democratic Party. Yeehaw! Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Be right back.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
The Blue Origin spacecraft with all the women on it, including Sanchez, the Lauren Sanchez lady, the girlfriend of Amazon guy Jeff Bezos, made it safely back to Earth. Of course, the Babylon Bee posted a picture of it saying that an unwanted Amazon delivery has been returned. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Friends, welcome to the program. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. And Twitter handle, X, now as it is referred to, a company saved by Elon Musk, is, you can find me at What's Right Sam. And get on X if you're not on it already. There's, follow a bunch of people that you like in media, including yours truly. It doesn't cost anything to join. You just sign up, need an email, that's it. And it's, you support every user that they get, even if it's not a paid user, helps Elon Musk. So if you want to do something, if you maybe can't afford to buy a Tesla right now or not buying a new car, it's okay. Sign up for X. And really, it's a place that saved, Elon Musk, I just got to tell you this, saved free speech on the internet and created a marketplace, showed that people were starving for freedom online, and certainly has turned that company around. So support it by signing up and make me your first follow. All right. So this, gosh, it's just wild to me. The idea, so let me play. This is a clip I played yesterday. I'm going to play it again. It's just so wild to me. Donnie O'Sullivan, this British guy, CNN guy, sat down with Taylor Lorenz. Lorenz is famous for, of course, doxing libs of TikTok creator Chaya Raichik. And so anyway, this is what she said about Luigi Mangione.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts, and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who got her outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems like this morally good man, which is hard to find.
The liberal cackle. Boy, this is, by the way, that probably might be the leading cause of infertility in men, is women who laugh like that. You literally feel your testicles shrinking back up into your body. So anyway, she's literally endorsing like assassination culture because it gets clicks. I mean, that's what she's saying. Now, let me contrast this, if I may, with Don Lemon lamenting yesterday something that is complete nonsense, right? That, that MAGA is silent on the Shapiro arsonist. Okay? This is Don Lemon, one of the stupidest people in media, but he's a Democrat, he's a lib, and this is what he had to say.
So MAGA is silent this morning. The White House is silent this morning. Donald Trump is silent this morning. They don't have a thing to say about one of the most horrific acts of political terrorism this country has seen in some time. This is awful. I don't know if you paid attention to it. As I said, I just couldn't watch after a while. I had to stop, especially after this happened. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on in the world? And why isn't someone condemning this from the highest heights in the White House? Right? Why isn't someone condemning this? One of the most horrific acts of political terrorism this country has seen in some time.
Right. Robbie, we don't have the clip yet, but I was on OAN yesterday, literally with Riley Lewis, national TV. There's more people watching OAN than there are watching this dingleberry, okay? And we were both standing firm against this, 100%. Now, by the way, here's Trump getting asked about it yesterday in the White House. I don't know if Don Lemon saw this or not, but this is during the Bukele meeting. And Trump was asked, of course, about the attack on Shapiro.
Have you attributed a motive through the FBI investigation behind the attack on Governor Josh Shapiro over the weekend?
No, I haven't, but the attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
And Trump was not alone. Pennsylvania House Leader Jesse Topper, a Republican, preliminary details about last night's arson attack at the governor's residence are beyond disturbing, and I condemn this and every act of political violence in the strongest terms. He went on to express relief that Governor Shapiro and his family were safe. Pennsylvania Senate Republican Campaign Committee. We condemn all forms of political violence. We're thankful Governor Shapiro and his family were not injured and hope that whomever committed this act is brought to justice. And Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday, also a Republican. I'm relieved that Governor Shapiro and his family are safe after an arsonist set fire to the governor's residence overnight. I join all Pennsylvanians in praying for the Shapiro's family and stands ready with any resources needed to find the culprit of the senseless act of violence. J.D. Vance, also a Republican. Bet you didn't know that. Maybe not if you're Don Lemon, because that's how dumb he is. Thanks be to God that Governor Shapiro and his family were unharmed in this attack, really disgusting violence. And I hope that whoever did this is brought swiftly to justice. AG Pam Bondi, also a member of the GOP and the Trump administration. I'm deeply relieved that Governor Shapiro and his family are safe. Thankful for the first responders who arrived on the scene and applaud the police. Police work that resulted in an arrest just hours ago. There are dozens of senators and representatives who made similar statements. The difference between Republicans and Democrats right now is that Republicans have decided political violence of any kind is a no-no. It cannot stand. But the Democrats sympathize with it. And they only make an issue out of it when it fits their narrative that Republicans are bad and racist. This is, by the way, the point that Don Lemon made, and I it's up against here, the bottom of the hour here, but but he did, and it's just, I'm not going to play the clip, but he goes, what I'm saying, you guys, is this is what I mean about going on. Where are priorities? Where are priorities? Okay. There's a reason so much hate is going on. There's a reason that there's so much anti-Semitism, so much racism going on. It's one person. I didn't start this, but he certainly exacerbates it. He foments hate and bigotry. This is Don Lemon. I think he means Trump. Never in the history of projection has one projected as much as Don Lemon here as a Democrat, the party responsible for dividing this country, for vilifying Republicans, for really fomenting anti-Semitism and hatred of all sorts of types, now saying Trump is the cause of all of this. Be right back after this. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., right here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So, I just want to mention something here real fast. We're doing this giveaway. I got so much to cover that I'm not doing this. I'm not promoting it as much as I should, and everybody's getting on me. So, What's Right Show ticket giveaway here. If you live in Las Vegas or you're going to come in this weekend, please sign up for this. Go to samandashlaw.com/giveaways. 4 seats. These are my seats on the ice at the Henderson Silver Knights game at the Lee's Family Forum, the arena here in Henderson. It's a beautiful arena, brand new, still has that new arena smell. And so you get 4 on-ice seat tickets, and the game is Saturday, 19th at 6 p.m. So sign up, samandashlaw.com/giveaways, one word. Easy. Find it there and then click on it, put in your information, and we'll hold a drawing on Friday and promptly let you know. Excellent. So, let me tell you a little bit of good news here. Just a point of order here that needs to be mentioned. The I'm getting to the yes, right. The polling. I know. I've got everything. So first of all, let me tell you. Should we talk about the Democrats first or Trump? It was the first one. Democrats, okay. Do you want a good laugh? Do you need a good laugh? Okay, Robbie's like nodding his head. Definitely. There is a new political poll, the Yale poll here of primary. What it kind of stacks up here for the primaries. I know it's looking ahead to 2028, but sort of where are Democrats now? So it's testing, asking a bunch of registered likely Democratic voters who they would vote for in the Democrat primaries. So these are elections that would be taking place beginning in late January, early February of 2028. So this is 3 years out, right? I mean, it's not that crazy far into the future. Who's up? Newsom, Gavin Newsom. This was the surprise to me, Robbie, because this just, tells me how little the Democrats know about their party. It's almost like they think that they have some voting rights, that they have the power to pick their nominee, which they most certainly do not. Newsom is at 6%. 6%. That's astonishing. Well, I think it's low. I think it's very low. Pete Buttigieg, the gay boy wonder of the transportation department under Joe Biden, Mr. Train Derailment, Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, 14%. 14%. My gosh. Wow. More than double of Newsom? Where did they get this? AOC 21%. Kind of surprised that that's pretty low. It's very fragmented at this point, which you'd expect. Top of the list. Maybe you've guessed this. Top of the list is Kamala freaking Harris, 28%. Can you imagine that? Kamala Harris, 28%. Can you imagine? Imagine just for a moment, you're a Democrat and you've just witnessed Kamala Harris get trounced. And it's not just that she lost the race, it's that she just looks like a clown. And even if she wasn't completely idiotic, she is still heavily tainted by what? By lying and covering for Joe Biden. Here is someone who was a senior, cabinet, member, if you will, as vice president, who could have constitutionally sought the removal of Joe Biden, ought to have done so. Owed a responsibility, honestly, to the world and to the country to take the vegetable out of his misery. Didn't do it, dithered, lied, and then in the last minute got shuffled in and performed abysmally. And that is who is atop the latest, released today, political polls of who you would want as a Democrat in 2028. So I'm just pointing that out. It's just absolutely wild. Now, there has been a JL Partners, quote, dailymail.com did a poll. Trump's approval rating, it's 54%. This is after the latest rounds of tariff, everything. People love Trump. He's in positive territory. But did Biden ever have 54%? Maybe early on in his administration, but just this is absolutely stupendous. And it shows him really only dipping to 49 between March 7th and March 27th. February 10th, 53%, February 25th, 54%, then back up from a low of 49 to 53 earlier this month and now to 54. This guy is made of Teflon. So I'm just pointing this out because it appears that Americans by and large support Trump and that this is a popular, these are popular moves that he's making in the country. Absolutely. So anyway, there it is. All right. So I'm just pointing this out. A lot of people out there saying Trump is doomed, hand-wringing that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms. We're going to air this tomorrow, but I want to begin to let you folks know some of the things I'm going to be doing here on the program. We do have the podcast, and many, many of you across the world, in fact, download the podcast. I want to point out to my friend Chris, who I've met via the show many, many years ago. He still takes this podcast. He is one of our many international listeners. So shout out to Chris. And I'm just, but here's what I'm getting at. We've got the podcast. I really am loving Spotify. Personally, I like that platform because we have video too. And I want to do interviews with people, interesting people. And I don't want to get interrupted doing interviews on air because it's just dumb. I want to get a conversation started with someone. I want it to continue, and I want it to go about 30 minutes because that's what you have time for. You don't have time to sit down and listen to me talk to somebody for 3 hours. So I'm going to do about these 30-minute interviews, and I'm going to have them up just on the podcast. So go to Spotify, set up an account. If you love the show and you listen to it live, go subscribe on Spotify. So when these interviews hit, you get the bonus episodes that are not going to be on air. Okay. And I sat down with Riley Lewis from OAN. He's a young guy. He's a dial conservative guy. Kind of came up the same way that I did in the sense that, listened to Rush and other, conservative talk radio icons. And he, he's a political guy, worked on a campaign, and then has kind of climbed to the top there at having a show on OAN. And he's got a career. He's a guy to watch. But we talked about the midterms, and I don't want to steal thunder. And by the way, we're going to release this tomorrow. So my sit down with Riley Lewis, we recorded it earlier today, but we're gonna release it on Spotify, on Apple Podcast tomorrow. And I'm just, well, okay, so I'm prefacing it with that. Now, we talked about the midterms. And it's a very interesting conversation from somebody who has, by the way, run a congressional campaign in California. And I want you to tune in and listen to that episode, because I think, here's the big picture. The midterms are winnable. 2 weeks ago, you had a bunch of so-called smart people, right when I was heading to Europe, who in the midst of Trump's, Liberation Day, tariffs on everybody, screw them all, death to China, right, in Europe, and right, guns blazing. A lot of these very smart people go, well, here, that's it. Republicans can just kiss the midterms goodbye. Now, you know what I've gleaned from this Trump support? Republicans will not come out and vote for pussy Republicans that are not supporting Trump. They're not going to vote for Democrats either, but they're not going to come out and vote for Republicans who are rhinos, who are not going to be supportive of Trump. That's going to be the magic ingredient. Trump is the shooting star. He's the guy. He is going. His approval numbers, I think are going to be strong this term. All he has to do is continue deporting bad illegal immigrants. He has to continue being tough on trade, repatriating jobs, bringing energy, back, into the U.S. and becoming energy independent. Tough on crime, law and order president. And look, the success is going to follow. It's not all going to be perfect, but it certainly is going to be such an improvement over where we were a mere few months back. And I think, so again, that to me is going to be, so we talk about that with Riley, and I'm going to mention this again tomorrow, that we have that extra episode that drops, and we'll do it. We'll probably have it drop after the show. So tomorrow afternoon it will be available. So, but it's just, again, so many people said, this is it. It's over. The market's going to drop. It's going to tank. And, you look at the market, and it's, up and down and up and down and down some days and up the next and whatever. But, we're not seeing any of what was predicted. None of that doom and gloom. And the same with Trump's approval numbers. So just have a little bit of faith. I keep saying this. I keep being optimistic, and I get these emails from some of you going, Sam, I don't know. I'm kind of worried here. I love Trump, but kind of worried. I worry you're not right about this. Well, so far I have been, and I'm not doing this. It's not a "see, I told you so" moment. I'm grateful that I'm right about it. So that's what it is. Oh, and that's interesting. There's another poll, right? 1/3 of all registered voters now identify as MAGA. It's the highest number. You're probably thinking 1/3, that's not, but look, a lot of people are sympathetic to the MAGA movement. They don't call themselves MAGA, but the point is that the number is growing. And that's, 71% of Republicans only identify as MAGA. Thought that was interesting. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Right back after this. Don't go anywhere. The What's Right show will be back in just a few minutes. Greetings, friends. Yes, we're here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Tax Day, April 15th. Ugh. So bad. Terrible, in fact. No question about it. So, yeah, I'm just going to one more time. The ticket giveaway here, the What's Right Show ticket giveaway. Go to Sam and Ash Law /giveaway. 4 on ice tickets for the Henderson Silver Knights game on Saturday, 6 p.m. If you're here based in Southern Nevada, go on there, apply, throw your name in the hat. Got a good chance, got some submissions, but I think, there's the odds are good here. So please, please, please go on there. And if you're interested in the tickets, we'll do a drawing on Friday, first thing Friday, and let the winner know. By the way, the Home Alone 2 director wants to cut Trump's cameo from the movie. You know the story about this? This is the Home Alone 2. This is Lost in New York. So you've got, this is a classic movie. It happened, it was filmed in the scene itself was filmed in the Plaza Hotel. And the Plaza at the time was owned by Trump. And Trump allowed the filming on the condition that he could have a cameo in the movie. So there it is. The director said, "I wish I was just gone." In fact, there were a number of people, I thought there was some streaming group that took it already out where it was gone. Anyway, this guy's just not liking Trump. Also, by the way, the director said he can't cut it because if he cuts it, he'd probably be sent out of the country. Sent out of the country. You see, but right now, I guess this happened just maybe an hour ago while we were on air. The Trump administration, via Levitt, a spokesperson there, they're saying that they got asked whether they would actually deport out of the U.S. American citizens. And so I'm seeing all these reactions from people in the media going, "Oh my gosh, you can't. This is it. Now we're here, full fascism. They're going to be just picking up Americans off the street and sending them over to the El Salvadorian prison." And Carolyn Levitt's response, though, is when you click on, you actually play, and I was listening to it during the break. Her response is, "Hey, we're looking at the law, like all options are on the table. There's some really bad people here that we might want to get rid of." And it's poking the bear, because the way she's saying it is it's subject to the law, and we're looking to see if there's a way that we can do it. I don't know. I'd have to research it. I don't know the quick answer. To me, the quick answer is you can't do it. But there could be some arcane loophole somewhere in the law that allows the expatriation of citizens. Remember, a citizen, look, it could be a naturalized citizen. You're talking about revoking somebody's citizenship. There is a precedent for that. Well, just precedent. Who was the guy? My goodness, who was the guy in Ohio? By the way, he disputed it all the way to his bitter end, who was found to be accused of being a Nazi concentration court judge. And no, Robbie, who was his? Oh my gosh, I can remember his name. Was it John? John something. My brain. Robbie, help me out. But he was a naturalized U.S. citizen, came to the U.S. after the war. Demjanjuk. Was that his name, Robbie? Demjanjuk. Anyway, but he was literally hauled away against his will on a stretcher, put on a plane, and sent out of the country. And he was a U.S. citizen because he had committed fraud on his passport. And by the way, nobody in the political left was like, "Oh yeah, let's keep the Nazi. We want to keep the Nazi." Nobody sit around and go, "God, it's just this poor old man, I don't know if he says he didn't do it. It was a million years ago. We have he hasn't been convicted in a court of law." That ring any bells? Right? So I'm just It depends on the circumstances. And that's, by the way, a funny story out of law. John Demjanjuk. There you go, Robbie. I actually remembered something in the moment. Yeah, he had his citizenship revoked in the 80s, and it took that long to deport him. Trump would have deported him like the next day. Citizenship revoked, sayonara, you're on a plane, you're off to Tel Aviv. I think actually they sent him to Europe, to Germany, I believe. But there are other people, Mahmoud Abu Halim. How do you pronounce this, Robbie? I can do Mahmoud. Abu Halima. Is that probably? Abu Halima. Convicted in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and his citizenship was revoked due to fraud. Ayman Ferris, also a naturalized citizen. He plotted to destroy the Brooklyn Bridge on behalf of Al-Qaeda. His citizenship was revoked in 2020. So there are some precedents for this. So every time you see in the next 24 hours, we'll probably talk about this more tomorrow. Robbie, let's flag that clip and reactions for tomorrow's show, because we're going to see a lot of people grousing about this, and there are precedents. That's my point. There are precedents for this. It's dependent on the circumstances. So as we joke in law school, when you go to law school, you say, what's the answer to the question? It depends. It depends. Very fact-driven. Facts, something for which the Democrats have a slight allergy. All right. That's the music. I can't believe 2 hours just like that. Sam Mirejovsky at What's Right Sam on X. Sam at what'srightshow.com. Email me, follow me on X. I'll see you tomorrow.